and welcome to DawnNews English. With 20 minutes, I'm Nadia Naqi with you. A lot is being discussed about the Geneva moot, where Pakistan has been able to secure more than it demanded. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had said that we needed 16.3 billion approximately in order for rehabilitation, reconstruction for the damages that have been incurred by Pakistan due to the monstrous floods. And we wanted that half of it should be done by the international community. Half, he said, would be domestically resourced. So when everyone met at Geneva, and what has been pledged is more than what is required, that is more than $8 billion. A lot of domestic noise is in place these days that how this money is going to be materialized. Will the pledges actually be materialized? Are these all loans? And then, of course, what is the mechanism going to be for the rehab, the reconstruction, for a climate resilient infrastructure for Pakistan? We have with us Fawzia Yazdani, who's a policy advisor. I must also say that she has been working with the UNDP Resilience Hub Nairobi, a specialized setup that works on climate resilience. Thank you so much for joining us on 20 Minutes, Fawzia. Let's start with how do you see the world pledging for this, on this Geneva conference? Because I think we have moved step by step. Initially, it was very difficult for Pakistan to make the international community realize that what Pakistan incurred, the losses incurred due to the climate change, we have not been part of it. We do not contribute to this climate change as much as the West does. So we've come a long way, and now that the international community is all out to support us.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for having me. I would say that it's a mixed palette in front of us. Number one, global South, global North has at last accepted that they are the polluters and they need to give priority to the climate and climate change, climate justice, climate disaster. Al Gore started it in 2003 when it hit its peak, but no one listened to it. Anyways, now they are reaffirming their prioritization to it, but yet we should not forget this is another COP. How many COPs we had? 27 COPs, COP 27. So if this pledging and commitment business was working, we would have been much better. But again, the other side is that now we know that due to those commitments, we can foresee ozone going down. What does it matter for Pakistan? What matters for Pakistan is that plight and precarious situation of 31 million people have been recognized. And for that, our champion has been the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. So I think all hats off to him. And government of Pakistan has also been recognized that yes, they need help and yes, they can deliver. And we had an international credibility gap. I think that's a good indicator towards that as well.
Okay, so Fawzia, you've mentioned it very well that it took COP 27, like 27 times this conference has taken place. But yes, Pakistan pleaded its case very well. Sherry Rahman, we must say Sherry Rahman and her entire team really worked hard for the global North to realize. Now let's come to what has been pledged. People are asking domestically, what has been pledged? Is it going to be materialized, or are these just pledges?
You see, that's the situation that we always have. Pledges, of course, are pledges. They need actualization. How do they get actualized? That's more important. While we, give a pat on Cherry and Cherry's team's back, which absolutely did a wonderful job, and suddenly we have Ministry of Climate Change at a position where it should be, if we really want to move towards resilience building. That having been said that's there. Pledges would actualize when they see the mechanism or vehicle for it to be delivered. Let's remember, these are not balance of payment supports to the government of Pakistan. These are programmatic support for the 31 million affected community and infrastructure for rehabilitation to resettlement. So what do we present to them is more important. Do we want to present to them more roads and roads? Are they interested in making roads for us? I don't think so. So how are we going to tackle the forward-looking socioeconomic integration so that we can curtail human mobility, we can we can deliver things to them at their, that's more important. The second part, loans or grants. You see, I think we have made loans a word taboo, that as if it's a bad thing. Let's not forget, it's an economic instrument which is used, and if it's used exhaustively, of course, it turns bad. US has loans from China. China is bailing out US. And if you look at China and look at Asian Development Bank's website, they have the biggest credit line. So that shows that loans are not bad. It's only that how do we use it? Grants, of course, are more beneficial to the countries like Pakistan for developing countries because their interest rate is much lower, and it has more flexibility for the national government to deliver. But what I think international community would be looking at, it would be the capacity and commitment of the provincial governments. It's not the federal government. Federal government can bring everything together, make a strategy, and do it. But action has to be at provincial government, and there it has to have a local government to do it. That's the only engine globally that we have seen to deliver. Unfortunately, that's not there. So that's to be seen that how does that pans out.
Okay, so Fawzia, this is very important, the actual materialization and the mechanism for the actualization of these pledges, for the international community to see that how Pakistan is serious, why they needed all of this, because we've really pleaded our case. So now comes the question, and I think this is the question domestically that people are interested in. Are we going to be looking at something like ERA? When Pakistan faced that monstrous earthquake, ERA was constituted, and then there was a lot of stories on the corruption that took place. So do you suggest that something on the lines of ERA needs to be established? Will PDMAs PDMAs and the DDMAs also taking part in this? Because that's where the problem is going to lie actually.
Absolutely right. You see, I have a very strong opinion about ERAs and NDMA. ERA, I don't know how many of our viewers would know, since 2005, it did become defunct, but as an organization, would you believe it, it's still functioning. So government of Pakistan is still paying for the salaries of people in ERA. So it exists as an authority, despite it has been asked to be winded down. It's not there. Coming to NDMA. NDMA was a good institutional setup to start with, but unfortunately, it could not be structured or deliver as it should have been, because for any national or provincial disaster management authority, it cannot work on its own. It's an integrated thing. You see, it has to, the planning commission or planning departments have to have a very active role in it, because whenever a disaster occurs, be it an earthquake, a locust, or COVID, or flood, name it, it's not one setup that works. So it has to have the administrative linkages, it has to have the planning linkages, it has to see forward looking, that how much did we plan about it. For example, you would remember that when these monsoon catastrophe happened, the Sindh government's disaster management plan didn't even envisage a disaster coming up. How could they not do it when for last 10 years all the international platforms for raising it, how Pakistan would be in center of such disasters? So we were sleeping. And what was NDMA doing? And then NDMA has had its lovely share of corruptions as well, which of course we have let go under the carpet. So I think, again, I'm coming back to the same point that of course, we need a vehicle for the support to go down to the community. That should stay. But how that is, streamlined is more important. So, role of the planning departments, role of the climate custodians at the planning, and how they are linked up with the local government system. A functional local government system for me is very important. This DDMs, it's not only PDMs. We have district disaster management authorities as well. So, how those DDMAs are aligned with district level local government setup is more important. Let the people decide for themselves, because it's the people who are resilient, it's the people who, in terms of ad hoc arrangement, in presence of very, very meager resources, kind of find a solution, make a practice, and try to get out of it. So we have to acknowledge the resilience of the communities and the people they're doing. And for that, they are answerable to the district government.
Okay, so now when you say that, Fawzia, see, there are you a supporter of international NGOs going through the community penetration and helping materialize everything that is required for the rehab and the reconstruction? Or do you think local NGOs should also be involved, apart from, of course, the local government? Because I always feel, I mean, this is a very personal view, that in some of the provinces that have been hit badly by the flood, the plight of the people still remains the same, despite the fact there has been a lot of philanthropy going on.
You see, number one, I'll take it from the last point. Yes, philanthropy has a limit. Philanthropy, much that, when you and me are talking or we're contributing, actually, we are donating 100,000 or 1,000,000. It sounds a very big amount, but let's take it to a village level. Yeah. Even for distribution of, mere flour or ration bag, I tell you, it cannot even cover a 5,000 household in a village. No. So this, unfortunately, we have again labeled NGOs as well as somebody, which is a negative word, as a taboo, whereas NGOs are a conduit. They are conduit to reach out to the community, because in countries like Pakistan, the administrative outreach is not there. Having said that, those NGOs who work with the local government, and I'll give you an example here, especially for Sindh, where, I'm talking about the larger NGOs, and
right,
of course,
right.
many who work, like a Quwwat, or this
Al-Khidmat.
Quwwat, Al-Khidmat, Sindh Rural Support Program. All of them aligned themselves with the local government to increase their outreach, and that's a medium of accountability as well. Because in the end, they are scaffoldings. It's not their responsibility to deliver. They are just a vehicle. The responsibility lies with the state. Now, the second part is that, we always say that this much funds came, and then, where did they go? Let's also remember, where do they go when they come through the international organization, and in case they bring their own vendors, NGOs, international NGOs, contractors are the vendors. When they come in, they have to hire big offices, poach the staff, there are salary, security, So out of 100,000, maybe 50,000 goes to all these ops expenditure. Right. So that's something that government of Pakistan has to look at. In Pakistan, we do not have dearth of experts to work on it. Having said that, we do need some experts. So if they are, for example, in a, since UNDP has been the co-facilitator of the Geneva conference, it has a huge global pool that can come as part of institutional contribution of a UN system into it and do it. And then we have capacitated our NGOs a lot. We have capacitated local government a lot. This capacity building, much that it has become a black hole, I swear, where I don't want people to go in because it sucks all your money, and then every third day we are doing it, yet we need it. So I think if they rely on the local one, it has more accountability, because smaller organization, they are there, people know who's heading it, what did it came. So the transparency, accountability, the watchdog perspective all come in. So I'm all for local NGOs to be led in this program.
Okay, so Fawzia, I'd also like you to comment on this. How much do you think, because Prime Minister Sharif had said at the press conference, the joint press conference that he had held at Geneva, that, he's going to have a third party audit in place. Does that help? And what is the third party going to be like?
Okay, actually he said it there as well, and just now also he was talking about it when they had the presser in Pakistan as well, the third party. See, we have to, when we said, earlier when we talked about responsibility, who is responsible for actualization and transparent disbursement of these funds. So responsibility as a word also needs to be unpacked. It's not individual, it's institutional responsibility. So on one hand, the government of Pakistan has the responsibility to ensure that it goes to the 31 million who are affected.
Right.
B, the funds are disbursed transparently, and there is accountability of what has gone in. For that, monitoring and evaluation is very, very important. And that's where, the donor's responsibility also kicks in, because donor also want a a transparent platter in front of you with the indicator that tells you, okay, our taxpayer funds were spent. So a third party, usually what happens is that bigger international organizations have international setups on their pool who come in. It's a very systematic way and they go and look at things. But we have seen for BISP also in Pakistan and other larger projects, again, local capacity is available for third-party evaluation. It is supposed to be independent of the government and the community and to look at the perspective. So I think that can be done. And for that, actually, I have a solution also, because we always talk about issues and we don't talk about solutions. This digital census that is going on and the way NACA has upgraded the digital, outreach part of it. Tariq Malik, I'm a huge fan, because in UN also, in Africa, he has led on these digital transformation thing. That's the way forward. Wherever we are talking about resilience building, institutional resilience building, digital technology, innovative solutions are the way forward. For these census, they are doing GPS and geotagging and GIS as well. Now that's very interesting, because with GPS, you actually locate people, community, and you can, with GIS, you can see how terrain has moved, where they have moved. So human mobility, again, socioeconomic integration, all can be done more technically, and the data is more real time. It's more evidence. We need evidence. I don't want next time when Prime Minister talks, he should be talking about the numbers, ABC. Like, remember New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said 2 minutes, 2 years performance. It was all about numbers. So it's all about how we put our case in front. We have pleaded very well, but we are good pleaders. But can we deliver? And how do we present that, I think, is more important.
My last question to you, because we've very little time left, Fawzia. Don't you think this is one of the greatest opportunity also that Pakistan has bagged? Because if we do this, in the right manner, we may have a resilient infrastructure, resilience to climate change, because climate change will keep on, taking place. And, by the time probably we're in at the end of first phase, most probably, I don't know the timeline that has been put in place for the first phase and then the second phase, we shall be very close to monsoon season in Pakistan.
Absolutely, we will be. You see, resilience building is a new phenomenon. It's an art. It has to be institutional resilience building. It has to go. Ministry of Climate Change and Planning Commission have to join hand, put it into our planning system and our thought process, link it with our budgets and annual development plan. When you are going into community and rehabilitating, making new houses, as you said, make them climate resilient. Tell them what are the ways to have a climate resilient way of life. The social transformation, it would take time. It's not small. It would take like a year plus for the government to even come to terms with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But thank you so much, Fawzia. We really hope that, climate change doesn't affect us the way it did affect us. It really gave a big hit to our economy. As the Prime Minister had said, that around 30 billion losses have incurred due to this monstrous flood. We do have an opportunity. We really hope that this is done, responsibly. And the pledges actually come into actualization, and the mechanisms are in place for a better Pakistan. And all those who have been affected, the 30 million of Pakistanis, really find some kind of solace with this kind of money coming in, and also domestically resourced, as the government has said, to build up better and to face this climate change in a better manner than before. Thank you so much for being with us. That's all for now. Take care and bye.